Welcome back. We're going to continue with more news and updates now. Just a story that obviously has been making headlines this week. We saw EFF leader Julius Malema has been found guilty of contravening firearm laws relating to an incident that occurred back in 2018 at a rally in East London. The court ruled that Malema unlawfully discharged a firearm in public, though he maintains that the case is politically motivated. So we're going to be unpacking the legal and political implications of the verdict, perhaps also as we edge into a local government election season as well. For that, political analyst Dr Levy Ndou is going to be joining us virtually. A very good morning to you, Dr Levy, and thank you for your time at this hour.
Good morning to you, Lisa. Good morning to the viewers at home. Thank you for having me.
We're obviously just looking at the repercussions of what's transpired from here and to. But for context's sake, let's just go back a little bit and start with the basics. What exactly was Julius Malema found guilty of? What does the law say about firearm handling, discharging it in public as well? And because the incident dates back to 2018, some are questioning why did it take so long to reach a verdict? Also just whether this has affected the delay in public trust at large in the justice process as well.
Well, now I want to get deeper into the legalities of the matter. I would just make a quick conclusion of what has transpired. What has transpired is that after the incident, the court has found that Mr. Malema has conducted himself in an unlawful manner. Mr. Malema should not have had a gun and ammunition displayed in the manner that it was displayed. Mr. Malema now is charged for that, and the possibilities that he could be jailed for a minimum of 15 years. What we can look at would be the political implications of that. And the biggest implication first will be that, in my view, that the EFF leadership should have a very deep discussion about how they assess this issue and how the ordinary membership and citizens would respond to that, because it has its own implications on Mr. Malema himself and the EFF as a political party led by Mr. Malema himself.
Yeah. You know, Prof. Levy, Dr. Levy, thank you for speaking to that. I know in your capacity, obviously, you're doing a political analysis. I was just bringing in the context of the law there, because there have been questions about political accountability versus selective application in our courts. We obviously heard Malema's defense argue that it was a stage effect, of course, not an actual gunshot. But Malema is also saying that it's a political case, right? This is not just a legal one, because the state, in fact, is weaponizing the courts to weaken the EFF. From your vantage point, how credible is such a claim in the context of South Africa's political climate? Also, if we're looking at what this now means, right? Does it strengthen his political narrative? Does it strengthen him in framing him as a persecuted revolutionary rather than a lawbreaker? Talk to us about those political dynamics unfolding.
Mr. Malema is a politician. All his life, he has been living as a politician, and whatever he does would have serious political implications. The conduct of a politician, and indeed a leader of a political party, is something that is always being looked at not only by his followers, but also by his opponents. When you are a politician leading a political party, you should expect those that are against or opposed to you to always try and find ways and means to identify where you are wrong, and where possible, they will use that to spur political gains. In this case, you have got AfriForum that has looked at the conduct of Mr. Malema, and they realize that if they take this matter to court, there is a possibility of a success. And that is exactly what they did, and they have succeeded in doing so. Some would argue that this is not a political case. I would also argue that it is a political case. It's raised by people who are opposed to him politically, but taking it to the legal front, it's also a legal one because they realize that they can use this case in order to deal with their opponent. And that is what they successfully did.
Well, yeah, because, I mean, there are also questions about judicial independence versus a test of how the law is applied equally amongst different political players as well. So thank you for speaking to that. But we're edging closer to local government elections, and obviously campaigning is going to be ramping up. And so ultimately, what does this conviction also mean for the EFF's image, the momentum ahead of 2026? Possibilities of disqualification or sentencing that might bar him from participating. What does this mean for his voter base as well then?
I think firstly we need to acknowledge the fact that, as raised by others, that there is no step-aside policy in the EFF. So we should not quickly expect Mr. Malema to step aside. Step aside is for the ANC. What Mr. Malema said himself after the judgment, he said that it is business as usual because in any way the proceedings are still ongoing until the final decision is taken in January. So he is expecting members of the party to continue working or doing the activities as if nothing has happened. But deep down, my expectation is that the EFF and its leadership should find time to sit down and reflect on this situation because they should know how their supporters and members are going to react to this one. They should also make an analysis on how other political parties are going to respond to this matter and as to whether they might use it against the EFF to the benefit of other political parties. They must also, they must also find ways to sit down and look at the longer implication of this situation on Mr. Malema and the party. And when it comes to local government elections, the EFF might also try to use this case in their favor because they might use the victim card on Malema and use that to galvanize support for the EFF. So it will depend on how the ground is actually responding to this situation. It might work in their favor, it might not work in their favor.
I mean, there is going to be questions about whether this is going to create more of a solidarity or increase the fragmentation amongst political parties that are obviously critical of the state. But if we just look at what's come to the fore, the relationship between politics and law as well, what do you think is being revealed about South Africa's criminal justice system, our justice system at large? The way the media has also framed this memory, how it also shapes public perceptions about cases such as this from your vantage point? What are you observing on that front?
We will obviously get mixed reactions.
Sure.
But because there are those who will say Mr. Malema is being prosecuted or persecuted because of his political stance. Others will say that Mr. Malema has always been advocating the interest of the oppressed, so he's being persecuted for such. But the other view would be that all people are equal before the law.
Sure.
And in South Africa, we have adopted the principle of the separation of powers, and we give the judiciary all the powers to prosecute, and they should do that fairly, without any favor, and treat all citizens equally. There is also a way in which when you are not happy with the legal proceedings, you can still appeal as indicated by the EFF, and indeed even appeal to the highest court. So there's still such possibilities. But the EFF as a political party is supposed to sit down, look at this situation, and have a better way of moving forward. Because if it's left as it is, other parties and others within the EFF might not be happy with the conduct of the leader, and that would have serious implications on the future of the party.
It's going to be interesting to see how, it might shift alliances with opposition politics as well in South Africa. But we're going to have to monitor those developments. Of course, sentencing and will be handed down following that conviction. But Dr. Levy Ndou, thank you for your time at this hour and for weighing in. We'll leave that conversation there. Perhaps have a blessed Sunday as well. EFF leader Julius Malema has been found guilty of contravening firearm laws. It relates to an incident back in 2018, that rally that happened in East London. The case has sparked some fresh debates about the balance between justice and politics and public perception in South Africa's democracy. Again, thank you to Dr. Levi for weighing in.